Welcome to Mr. Biz Radio, biz talk for biz owners. If you're ready to stop faking the funk and take your business onward and upward, this show is for you. And now, here's Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth.
Welcome to another episode of Mr. Biz Radio with me, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth. And we're going to talk about something I know is going to hit home for a lot of people. I know for myself, honestly, if I want to be completely vulnerable about it, and pretty much everyone I know. So, I do this all the time, kind of joking, but anyone out there today, so far, you're listening, you're watching the show, raise your hand if you had some form of caffeine today. Okay. I don't even have to know. Everyone raises their hand, right? Almost everyone partakes in some form of caffeine, some more than others. I had a guy I worked with that his admin had a preloaded Starbucks card. There was a Starbucks in the building, and she knew exactly what his order was, of course. And then he had to have a Starbucks coffee at certain times every single day that he was in the office. So she would just go, I forget the times. He would get one on the way in. She would bring him another one at, let's say, 10:30. And then he would go to lunch, and then she'd bring him another one at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I would be in his office sometimes meeting, and all of a sudden she'd tap on the door and just reach in with another Starbucks. I mean, he got down that much. And I know a lot of people rely heavily on caffeine. And we're going to talk about not just reducing our reliance on caffeine and the impact that caffeine has on all of us, but also very much related to that is food intolerance. Things that we have that we are food intolerant to, and or we have food addictions that are probably, we don't even realize it and are causing us, unnecessary health problems. And so I want to really dive into this because I was fascinated as I talked to our guest this week, Norbert Heuser, about this. I said, oh my gosh, he mentioned caffeine addiction. I go, you got to come on, because we've talked about this a bunch of times. And I know I've talked to friends and other entrepreneurs, business owners, et cetera. Norbert is a German inventor, entrepreneur, and public speaker. He's a health coach, author, and a consultant for management. He has visited 39 countries. We could probably do a whole show on his travels because that'd be fascinating for me. He's done more than 200 interviews on podcasts, webinars, and seminars. One of the things that he's focused on in the past was intense food intolerance. That was an issue that he had earlier in his life, and then food addiction. He found a doctor that could help him with that had a bunch of experience with that. And that's what's led him down this path. Norbert, without further ado, I've blabbered on long enough. Welcome to Mr. Biz Radio.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited. We just met shortly, and I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Before we start diving into the food intolerance and addictions and caffeine and all that, if you would, I mentioned some of it during the intro, but tell us a little bit about your journey, Norbert.
Well, 10 shows wouldn't be enough to cover my journey, I can tell you that. Bottom line is that 40 years ago, I was on the verge to die. I was so sick. And before that time, only as a 10-year-old, I was 8 days in hospital. And the rest of my life, I've never been in hospital. So when 40 years ago, I became so sick that I knew something is bloody wrong, I looked in the yellow pages and I picked accidentally a name, called this doctor. He asked me to come in. And 45 years ago, this gentleman was specialized in food addiction and food intolerance, which 45 years ago, nobody knew anything about it. Okay?
Yeah.
And of course, the health insurance wouldn't pay him because he was off the charts with them, So he fixed me in 3-4 weeks. 50% of my problems was food intolerance and food addiction. And I was so amazed. And at this time I was a management consultant already, full-time job. But I decided I got to change something in my life here. And I went as an adult man with a business. I went every day as an intern in his practice for 1 year. Every day except Sunday. He practiced even Saturday, no Sundays, and not Christmas. So except Christmas and Sunday, I would go every day to his practice, and we would work together as his right hand, as his intern. And we would do experiments together, experiments which normal, regular doctor would never, ever do or would refuse to do. And we had an agreement. He had in me a willing guinea pig. I said, look, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. And he knew I was not, an idiot. And I knew he was down. At this time, I was already starting to get into alternative medicine as a hobby. So after 1 year, I decided this is so mind-blowing. I got to add to my management consultants a health consultancy, because I realized at this point, 45 years ago, that a lot of people I consulted as a management consultant, they had problems with food addictions and problems with addictions, not only food, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started to offer my my service, and at the beginning, there's something is called kinesiology or muscle testing. Are you familiar with it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Sure. So 45 years ago, that was very new as well. So I learned kinesiology, the basics of it, and I started to consult people. And when I had a management consultant job, I first checked every person whether they had an addiction. Because I knew when I was working as a consultant and the person has an addiction, that addiction will just set him off his track.
Sure.
Okay? You may
Makes
not
sense.
be aware of it, you know, but it's distracting his life, and it usually affects the marriage, the family, and so on. Keep in mind that if you have, I had a lot of alcohol addicted people. If you have an alcoholic, let's say the manager, the husband is an alcoholic, or it's a wife, it doesn't matter, and she's a manager. If he or she is an alcoholic, it typically affects 4 to 8 people. Typically, you're married, you have 2 kids, you have parents, a brother, sister, and you being alcoholic, once it comes to a certain intensity level and you cannot really brush it under the carpet, it affects all those people, the life of those people, and eventually your career, okay? So, and then I said, okay, I'll fix them first, which means I'll make them understand what are your food intolerances and your food addictions, and try to get them slowly out of the way while we work on management issues, while we work on typical management problems, which a typical management consultant doesn't look into the food and drug and the health situation, right? We ignore it, we tap dance, we don't want to touch it, it's too complicated. We're not a doctor, right? We're not a doctor. So this is how I ended up in this. And the first years I did only food and addictions and food intolerances. Later I added others, while I didn't go beyond alcohol. If somebody had serious drug addictions, like let's say heroin, what we call nowadays crack and whatever, I would not go there. I'm not qualified for that. Okay.
Yeah.
I would just tell them, look, here's an issue. I cannot help you, but you got to help yourself and do something about it. So that was the start of my career. And I'm doing this for the past 45 years, more or less intense. Well, of course, over the years, more intense. And I made some inventions and I made some products and designs. When I found out down the road, when I became the second time sick, that was 18 years ago, 17 exactly, 17 years ago, when my first born grandson was born. And we were both affected by mobile phones.
Mm.
We were both affected what you call electromagnetic radiation and by mobile phones. And I went crazy because there was nothing there. No doctor had any idea. And there was nothing out there which really worked. There was a few products offered, but they didn't work. But the average person could not find out it worked or not. So, and then I designed my own product to protect myself and my family from cell phones. Wi-Fi wasn't that big at this time. There was just 3G, not 4G, not 5G.
Mm-hmm.
And I developed technology and invented it and made in Germany. So I finally added this. I didn't want to have a company manufacturing. I didn't. But I ended up into it. And I took it because I saw it was my calling to give solutions.
Yep. I love it. I love it. Guys, we're going to hit a break here real quick. We're going to come back. We're going to continue talking about food intolerances and addictions. But one of the things I want to talk to Norbert about, I'm sure you guys are wondering as well, is what is one of the most misunderstood aspects of food intolerance that secretly may be sabotaging our health, and how do we identify that and fix it? Come back after the break on Mr. Biz Radio.
If you would like to reach hundreds of thousands of business owners every week, Mr. Biz Radio can help. Our show airs globally 7 days a week for more than 25 hours across several internet radio stations, plus 20 plus podcast platforms. Also, video exposure on the new exclusive Mr. Biz Network streaming channel, which gets blasted to 100 plus streaming platforms, and the Mr. Biz YouTube channel, and our 350,000 social media followers multiple times every week. Join Mr. Biz Nation as an advertiser by emailing us at info@mrbizsolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to scarcity countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit getpulsetools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Check out all 3 of Mr. Biz's best-selling books at MrBizBooks.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. Again, talking with Norbert Heuser this week. You can find out more on his website, and we'll put this in the show notes as well. But improveyourlifewithnorbert.com, improveyourlifewithnorbert.com. So, Norbert, I mentioned at the end of the last segment, but one of the pressing questions I have from some of the things you had mentioned during the first segment is, what is one of those things that it's most misunderstood, an aspect of food intolerance that maybe is secretly sabotaging our health and we just have no idea? I mean, how do we identify that? What's that thing that's out there? There's got to be at least a few of those, I would imagine.
Well, there's 2 expressions. There's food intolerance and there is food addiction.
Mm-hmm.
They sometimes are intertwined and they have a very fine line of separation. Food intolerance is that your body physically cannot tolerate certain food. Like I've seen people who eat seafood, shellfish, and they bite in it and they collapse. They turn red and their body freaks out. These are the most extreme ones, okay? It's food intolerance. Your body just, for whatever reason, cannot tolerate a certain food, which your wife can tolerate, but you cannot tolerate it. That's the way it is. Whatever the reasons are, that's too deep to go into it. But that's a food intolerance, which is sometimes sensitive, that you feel like your body is flushing up, or you eat Chinese food and they have certain products in there, which they often do, and then you kind of blush and you feel your body heats up like fever, okay? This is food intolerance. Your body rejects that particular food. That can be just ingredient, that can be an entire food sections, whatever it is. Now there's food addiction, which is completely different, though they may intertwine. Food addiction. An addiction is a dependency to which you cannot say no. Very simple. The most simple way I ever put it in words. However, I found out my thesis on which I work, you can be depending on the 3 Ps, the letter Ps. You can be depending on a product, which we all think about addiction, like you take drugs or alcohol or cigarettes, right? It's a product. You're depending on a product. Your free will is not as strong as your addiction. You got to have it. Your free will is not strong enough. Okay. On a product, the second P is a person. Now, this may surprise you, but people at times are addicted to a person. And you see sometimes relationships, especially couples, their relationship is toxic. You stand next to them and say, guys, this is toxic. I mean, you cannot, right? And they have an addiction to each other. It's sickening. It is weird. I had people I had to consult. She married an alcoholic, and finally she got away from him. And the next man she married was an alcoholic again. She was in that circle, right? So you can be addicted to a person. It's not logic. It's not very sensible. And in most cases, it's chaotic. Now, the third P, we had product, person. The third P stands for process or procedure. You can be depending on a procedure. That would be, for example, you have to have porn to watch. You have to go to a titty bar. You have to be with certain people together to exercise certain things. You're not addicted to this particular person or product, but to the procedure of hanging out with these people and doing certain things. Nowadays, we have a lot of procedure dependency, addiction to cell phones, to internet, to electronic media. And like in Korea, they fully accepted cell phones to be, can be an illness, a sickness, to be depending on a cell phone. So take away cell phones from a lot of people and let them live 1-2 days without it. You see the results. They can't. So they're addicted to a procedure. Does it make sense to you, Ken, these 3 Ps?
Absolutely. You know, it's funny you mentioned, especially with the cell phone example, is, and I have teased my daughters, younger daughters, you know, the notification, they hear the ding on their phone and they have to instantly go pick it up. It's like, that's not an emergency. It's not going to go away. You can see that later. You can turn the notifications off. And that's what I had them do. I said, and they at first they kind of laughed at me and said, "Oh, Dad, you know, whatever." And I said, seriously, you guys don't realize it's like Pavlov's dog. You know, you hear the ding and you're looking for the food, the reward. Yeah. You hear the ding on the phone, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I got to see you. You know, did someone text me, or did I get in, you know, someone liked my post, or, you know, whatever the heck it may have been." I said, that's not going away. If you check that in a half hour, whatever that was that popped up, it's still going to be there. If it's an emergency, that person's going to call you. They're not going to send you a text or, you know, whatever. And I said, you know what I do? In the evenings, I turn off my notifications. And so I don't let that control me whatsoever. And I said, try that, you know, turn off your notifications for a while, check the phone when you want to check it. So you're not Pavlov's dog, hearing the, you know, the ding and like instantly picking up your phone.
Yeah, but you see, you and I, we shared one thing at least in common. We had half of our life no cell phone.
True. Yeah.
And we know how it is. Or people call you when you're not at home. Well, they hear the answering machine or nobody, right? And they call back later. If you listen to the conversations, really, I must say that 80-90% of the conversation I have to listen to because sitting next to the people and they can't be quiet or low volume. I say, what the hell? How do you spend your time? You got no life. You got to discuss about this now. And you say, nonsense conversation. So now comes the big cajon here. If you have a craving for something, the craving is a proof that you're addicted. If you have a craving for coffee, it's a proof that you're addicted. You have a craving for milk, it's a proof that you're addicted. I watched a man in this 1-year internship who died because of a milk addiction. You can be addicted to everything, anything. The biggest addictions we have nowadays is sugar and caffeine. The widest spread addictions there are, sugar and caffeine, with devastating situations if you go on withdrawal, if you don't have it. So what does it mean? The addiction is stronger than your free will. The addiction to drink caffeine is stronger for you than to say no. The addiction to eat sugary stuff is stronger for you to say no. Addiction is always connected to a craving which dominates your thoughts and your actions.
That's interesting. So I was going to ask you about that next, and we're going to hit a break here. But so, you know, one of the things I want to talk about in the next segment is not only more on the caffeine side, because I know a lot of people are probably wondering about that. But so next segment, I want to talk about, you know, how do you tell, and you kind of gave the definition, so you kind of answered this a little bit already, but I want to dive a little deeper in is, how can you tell if you have an addiction versus a habit, number one? And then number two, what are some ways we can go about breaking that addiction or that intolerance that we have without feeling miserable? Because I think a lot of people, as you mentioned, the withdrawals, and it's so funny you say that. I mean, you see all these memes and coffee mugs, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee in the morning and everything. So it's definitely something that's there. Come back after the break on Mr. Biz Radio.
How would you like to have direct access to Mr. Biz to help you run your business more profitably and more efficiently? At MrBizSolutions.com, you get live access to not only Mr. Biz, but also several of his hand-picked and trusted business experts, each with 20 plus years of experience to help you optimally manage and grow your business. That's just the start of where Mr. Biz Solutions begins. Learn more at MrBizSolutions.com. That's MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to scarcity countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit GetPulseTools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Got a question for Mr. Biz you want answered on air? Email it to info@MrBizSolutions.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. Again, talking this week with Norbert Heuser. You can find out more at his website, improveyourlifewithnorbert.com. That's improveyourlifewithnorbert.com. So, Norbert, I want to pick up right where we left off. I want to dive into the caffeine, but before that, what would you say is the difference between knowing if you have an addiction versus it's just a habit?
Okay. A habit is something you do which you're usually not aware of, which can be a stupid thing like you scratch your head all the time, right? Addiction is you get a strong command from your brain, from your body, you got to do this. And you cannot say no. And it's very simple. In my book, I explain it. For you might find it interesting. I never drank coffee in my life. Never drank coffee. Never, ever. And basically no caffeine, no soda pops, and no energy drinks. And then 2 years ago in the COVID times, I said I have to make a self-test. So I turned myself into a coffee addict and then to see how to get out of it. And I explained it in the book. It was a tough one. It's very simple for you to find out, which I explain in the book as well. If you say, and you have to know first, caffeine we have not only in coffee, we have it in black tea, in green tea, in white tea, in basically most soda pops, and definitely in all energy drinks through an intensity level which goes through the wazoo. So you have caffeine everywhere. And the amount of caffeine being drunk by people who are up to it, it's amazing. And they don't realize it. So, and I say in my book, look, I understand you say, no, I'm not addicted. Fine. It's okay for me. You don't need to justify your life for me. I'm just telling you what I found out. So you take, let's say, caffeine. And you stop today to drink any caffeine, any coffee, any soda pop, any energy drink, anything. I guarantee that the majority of people, somewhere 90-95%, cannot survive 2-3 days. They have to get back. They cannot stay away from 2-3 days. Now, what does that mean? You prove to yourself, don't prove it to me. Prove to yourself, am I addicted or not? If you can stay away for 2-3 days, wow, you're a minority, you're an exception. Well, then expend it for a week or for a month, and you will see what happens. The addiction is stronger than your free will. So first, find out for yourself. You don't need to prove it to me. Find out for yourself, and to be aware of a problem is half the solution. You must be aware of the problem.
Yeah, Norbert, I got to ask you. So how often do you see, because you had mentioned other addictions as well that people have, not just the caffeine, but obviously a lot of other things. How often do you think that an addiction, is it an addiction to the actual, substance product, as you had mentioned, I got to have caffeine, I need that energy boost, or is it an addiction to the dopamine boost that you get from most addictions, I think, create for the person who's addicted a dopamine boost, right? Whether it's you're taking, hard drugs, whether it's alcohol and you get a dopamine boost from alcohol, so you're addicted to that, or the caffeine. Is it the actual, the effect of the substance that you get addicted to, or is it more that you're seeking that dopamine?
Well, we're all seeking dopamine. And there are different ways to do it in a healthy way, do it in a sick way, okay? If I have to take crack to get dopamine pumped up in my body, well, yeah, you have that happy feeling, but the happy feeling goes away pretty soon, and you have to replace it again. And then you have to have more and more constantly. You never go less. Nowadays, we have a bit of an addiction, a new one, which are tattoos. And I do a show on tattoos because most people don't know that tattoos can cause cancer, and that they do, and that they ruin your health, right? And when somebody has one tattoo, he usually has a second, third, fourth one. It goes on and on and on and on. So I do an entire segment, big show about tattoos. So we all look for excitement. but there's a healthy one and there's a bad one. So what did the last 50,000 years look for excitement? They had no caffeine really, and they had no drugs, so that much really, the average person, and so on. So excitement comes from your inner values, of your inner pride, of things you have accomplished, not been given to you, you have accomplished. We lost the basic of happiness and energy. As you get it from, there's no question, you get energy from these drinks. In my book, I explain why you get them. You will be blown away if you really understand what I say in the book, why you get them. Now, once you get them this way, that's easy, it's fast, it's instant. And keep in mind that if you drink a cup of coffee, it takes about 20 hours to get out of your system, right?
Okay.
I have one show which is called The 19 Possible Causes for Bad Sleep. A lot of managers I consult, they have all bad sleep. They have all bad sleep. And caffeine is one reason of the 19, okay? So the only way to be healthy and full of energy is by enough sleep, healthy, nutritious food, healthy water. I have a show on water. Majority of people drink bad water, even if they think it's good water. It's been sold to them as good water. Like there's a water called reverse osmosis water, which is the devil. It's the absolutely devil. It's the downfall. If I'm consult people, they're not allowed to drink reverse osmosis water. If they keep drinking it, I pull back. I'm not consulting them because I can't accomplish a product because I know they're going to stumble. They're going to fall. So the caffeine can be substituted only by a healthy lifestyle, full of dignity, full of happiness, full of love, full of good sleep, full of nutrition, full of healthy water, and more fresh air, sunshine. We all have not enough air, sunshine. I call it we live in a fridge. We live inside, but not outside. So there is no replacement for this, but it's work. It's hard work. You got to move your butt. You got to do something. And of course, sitting in front of the TV, having a cell phone in your hand, or drinking a coffee, it seems to be an easy way for a fluffy, sexy rock and roll life. And everything else is more work. That's what it is. Very simple. So how to get out of it? I explain in the book there are two ways. One is hardcore. People just stop from one day to the other. Only very few people can manage. The majority of people don't. But the first step is you have to recognize I'm an addicted person. And you have to confess it to yourself, not to me, not to anybody. The truth is very simple. It's so simple that the majority of people will refuse the idea of truth. It cannot be that simple. Yeah, it is simple. So you have to confess to yourself, to have to admit it, to confront it, and say, I want to do something about it. And then starts the hard work of withdrawal. Every time you're addicted to something and you stop it, regardless of what it is, a procedure, a product, a person, you have withdrawal symptoms. And let's not tap dance around it. This is tough, a tough job. And don't look down on your son who takes crack and you drink 5 beers a day or 10 coffees a day. You are as addicted as he is. He has a more product, more expensive, but the addiction, the mechanics are the same.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I mean, I think for me, and I think for me to summarize, at least the way I took in what you said is, you know, finding other sources of that dopamine. So whatever you're trying to cut out, if it's caffeine or whatever it is that's giving you that dopamine, is finding other things. And again, like you said, it's difficult because a lot of those things they require you to get off your rear end and do something. But you might find that going outside and playing kickball with your kids gives you that dopamine boost. And it's just like having caffeine or whatever other substance you might be addicted to. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss. Working out, for me, like especially back in the day, it's not as strong as it used to be, but I would almost say in some ways I was addicted to working out because I felt so great. And I used to always say, and I still stick to it, I've never gone into the gym, come out of the gym after a workout and felt worse than when I went in. I could go in there feeling like crap, not wanting to do anything and not even wanting to be there, but I always came out feeling better when I came out. And so I think finding that substitute is very important. So, unfortunately, we're out of time here, Norbert. There's so many other things we could talk about. Maybe we'll have to have you back on, but I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me. And people buy my book, not making money for me, but the book, to get the message out there. Read the book. You understand a lot of things of your life, not only coffee, not only caffeine. And you understand for the first time why caffeine kills you. You understand it for the first time. Basically, no doctor knows it. And they've never been taught in university. They've never been taught about nutrition. They've never been taught about electromagnetic radiation, cell phone problems, which is another show I do. So, but you have to read it to understand it and then to make a decision. Do I want to improve my life or not? I can tell you now, all the managers I have, if I don't get them off caffeine and off unhealthy water, they will never be really full-time productive for a long time. They're where they're out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And don't forget, as always, cash flow is king.
To become part of Mr. Biz Nation, follow him on all social media platforms or never miss a show by going to MrBizRadio.com. If you prefer free video content, visit the Mr. Biz YouTube channel or check out his streaming channel, which is available on 100 plus streaming platforms at MrBizNetwork.com.